Hey everyone, welcome to Romo Athletics. Give you a quick update on summer football. Got Coach Derek Heflin here with me today. Coach, thanks for being here.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, so man, you just wrapped up your 7-on-7. It was here on Monday nights, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So how'd that go?
No, we had a good 4 nights. Salem and St. James came down every Monday night in June. And with Waynesville having a transition, they had been here the last couple years, but their head coach was moving in and they were doing their own thing. So it was just the 3 of us. But we saw a lot of reps, and it was good for us, seeing other people. And really, it was a tough spring with all the stuff they're doing. We got the field behind us and it looks great and it's awesome compared to the old one. They get old and it gets beaten out, and this thing's nice and fluffy, and you feel like you can run 1,000,000 miles an hour. But it was good for us to get out here and see guys that had really worked hard in the weight room in the winter. We had a really good winter and spring in the weight room, and see them come out here and compete. We had a couple days we looked really good. We had a couple days, just based off of who was here. It's the summer. We got kids on vacation. We've got kids playing basketball. We got kids playing baseball. We got kids wrestling. We got kids doing everything. So, it wasn't always everybody here, but, we saw kids that, had put in a good off season and, go out on the field on Friday, or I guess on Monday nights, and kind of transition it and start seeing just laying the groundwork for when we get rolling here in July.
Well, and it's going to be a big transition. Again, you graduate a lot of seniors, especially from the skilled positions.
Yes.
So that's 7-on-7. Now, again, they might have been familiar with each other from the JV and through the time, but a lot of those were kind of years before. So it's bringing them all back together, getting those people in those positions. So I know that's always going to kind of be a challenge, but a great opportunity to learn about it.
No, yeah, and you saw it. There were weeks where, the guys that, we had, Blaine working, he got some reps there at the end. The last 5 weeks, he was our quarterback. So the guys that had been on the varsity, he had a good connection with, but some of those new guys were moving up in those skill spots to replace those guys. It was a learning curve, and, like I said, our best week was probably our last week. So that was something really good to build on. And I was excited with those guys and seeing the work they've put in on their own. Once the fields got back open, there's every day after we get done lifting, there's a group of guys out here working, doing things, honing their craft. So, there's a bunch of guys fighting for some jobs, and it will be a little different this year. We were talking about it the other day. This is the most depth we've ever had on the offense and defensive line, but the skill spots, we still got the depth we had. It's just a lot of unknown of guys competing, and there's going to be a lot of competition when we put the pads on in July for sure.
So speaking of July, that's going to start your camp.
Yes.
Actually, time will be there, and that'll lead right into a week off, and then actually go into the school year. So when's camp start?
Camp starts July 13th for our varsity guys. It'll be at 7 a.m. and really it's kind of the start of practice, because we'll go 3 weeks in July, finish with a jamboree style team camp, and then, like you said, we get a week off, and then it really begins, and you got to start all over. That's the joy of this every year, is you go about a month of full practice, and then, hey, start over, do all this stuff. But that's just the way. That's everybody's football life in Missouri. So it is what it is. But no, there's a lot of guys that have been out here. We've had a great June in the weight room. Great 7-on-7, so I'm just excited for July 13th to get here.
Well, let's talk about that weight room real quick, because again, last year you started an all-athlete or all-sport summer workouts in the weight room and conditioning out here on the turf. Had a great turnout.
Yeah.
All sports were involved, so you had that unification, if you will, of the athletics program. And what about this season?
We ran about 100 more kids through the weight room this year, which is great on the varsity side. And we had about 30 kids every day on the junior high side for almost the whole time. So that's exciting. You see kids are buying in. You see the strength transitioning program getting in their minds, seeing what they're doing. We have from top to bottom, probably the strongest team we've had, and a lot of those guys with a small senior class are sophomores and juniors, and those guys have worked extremely hard, and you see it out here. When you bring all the sports together, they compete, they get after it, and they're doing it together, and they're doing it as Bulldogs. So it's a lot of fun to come out here every day and just see. We had about 100 average. Once you divide it out, it's about 120, 125 kids, boys and girls, out here every day, and that's with basketball camps, baseball stuff. Thursdays get real light around here because all the baseball kids are gone. Basketball camps are going on. Our basketball guys came in today, got a quick stuff in before they had to leave. It's that mindset of those kids understanding it's an everyday grind, and we're starting to get there with it, and it's exciting to be a part of it. And they work really hard, but I think at the end of the day they have a lot of fun too, and that's important for them.
Definitely. And there's going to be a combine. We're going to be a first year having a combine here, July 25th. And they're going to have that here on this facility. It's going to be high school age kids. I think some younger kids as well. And different throughout the day, so that's a big event as well.
Yeah, Full Range Fit is putting that on. They're working with the youth athletes. They do great stuff, and their mindset is that if you're in St. Louis or Kansas City, these are opportunities all the time. Something in mid-Missouri for the kids that aren't in the greater metropolitan areas, that we can offer something, they can have it, show it, put it out on social media, just like those kids in Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia have that opportunity all the time. But something in our community where our kids can come here and do it, I think it'll be exciting for them, and it'll be cool.
It's another big thing, not just for the program, but for Rolla athletics.
That's really it's a Rolla athletics thing, and that's kind of all June. Other than Monday nights, it's been about Rolla athletics. It's not really been about football. It's putting our kids in the best position to compete, whether it's football, basketball, wrestling, whatever, you name it, soccer. I know I'm forgetting sports, but the sports that all our kids are competitive, and they participate in multiple sports. So it just makes it easier, and to see the work these kids are putting in, it makes it worth having to get up every morning at 5 a.m. to get here and set up, because they do a great job, and there's great things coming from this group.
All right, well, Coach, thanks for the time today. Appreciate it. Good luck on the rest of the season. Enjoy your rest before it all starts up in July.
Oh, yeah. No, it'll be fun. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Coach Derek Heflin, I'm Tom Brown. Remember, it's always a great day to be a Bulldog.